How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Set 6, and today, we're doing it again. We're doing it again, that's all I can say about it, really. We're doing it again. We're going to get unrealistically overexcited about something that is starting to feel like it's not going to come. I've given up on it a couple of times now, but yet again, something's happened that's made me go, oh, really? And that is the Final Fantasy IX Remake. Yeah, I know, we've talked about this, we've been here, we've done this, but things are lining up a little bit. We're going to go over them briefly, like the video, sub for future content, but we're just going to keep rolling. So, if you don't know what the Final Fantasy IX Remake is, which I don't know how if you're a regular viewer of the channel, but if you don't know what it is, a few years ago there was an NVIDIA leak, there was a lot of titles included in that NVIDIA leak, and as a part of it were Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered and a Final Fantasy IX Remake. And since then, pretty much everything else that was in the leak has happened, except for these two things. Obviously, there are a few other things that maybe haven't happened exactly, but in general, these are the only two things that haven't happened. As far as Tactics goes, we've not really seen much at all. We've not really seen any kind of hype being built up for Tactics or anything like that. We've not seen any real product releases. I think there might have been a crossover with one of the mobile games, but other than that, not too much. Whereas from the perspective of Final Fantasy IX, we have seen a bit of a building up in the things that are available for Final Fantasy IX. So for example, we had the Ever Crisis crossover event. We had this rumoured animated TV show, this animated kids TV show that was supposed to be happening. Everything seems to have gone radio silence on that, so I'm going to guess that maybe fell by the wayside, or is potentially being held for the time when a Final Fantasy IX Remake itself comes out. So maybe those two things are being kept so that they drop in conjunction with each other, do a bit of cross-marketing between the two. That would make sense. But yeah, we've heard nothing about this animated show, and we've only really heard rumour about any kind of Final Fantasy IX Remake since the original leak. There's been nothing official from Square Enix at all, although they've not necessarily said no. There was an interview where it was suggested to, I believe it was Naoki Yoshida, I might be wrong on who it was, but they basically said that, oh, if there was to be such a thing, it probably wouldn't be able to come out in one game, it'd probably be too big to be one game, which is a little bit worrying, but we'll come to that later. But as far as anything official to confirm or deny a Final Fantasy IX Remake, there's been nothing from Square Enix. There was something that appeared in the Epic Games Store in June last year, if I remember correctly, June or July last year, which seemed to suggest that there is an FF9 remake still. And there are obviously industry insiders who keep saying, yeah, this exists, this is real. And it's referred to as one of the worst kept secrets in gaming at the minute, because people seem to know that it's coming, but there's been no official announcement about it. And the problem with that is that every time we go a few months without hearing anything about it, and every time we go through a major event without seeing it, it puts doubt in everyone's minds and makes us all kind of think, oh, maybe not, maybe it's not happening. Like Tokyo Game Show last year was a big one for me. I fully expected us to get something at Tokyo Game Show, and we got nothing. So that kind of threw everything into disarray and like made me doubt it a fair bit. But now we've just had the announcement today that Square Enix are going to be releasing some new figures. We've got a Garnet figure and we've got a Zidane figure, and that's part of this push that started over the last 24 hours to advertise and market the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy IX, which is coming on July the 9th. And you put all of those things together, and you've got a lot of people that have now started thinking, oh, Final Fantasy IX Remake. So maybe we are about to get something to fill the gap between now and Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, because, you know, we've got at least 2 years until that, I would say. Because it feels right, and like this is probably quite optimistic of me, but it feels right that the game would drop around the 30th anniversary of the OG. So yeah, January 2027 seems like the shout. So to fill the gap until then, a Final Fantasy IX Remake would be very appreciated. But the big concern for me about this is the fact that we've not actually had anything official yet. But that could be about to change, because on Wednesday the 2nd of April, there is a Nintendo Direct, and there are a lot of people that seem to be suggesting that we might hear something FF9 Remake related there, and that would fall in line with what Square Enix have been saying recently about how they're going to step away from being PlayStation exclusive, and they're going to look to release games on more platforms simultaneously. Now, the FF7 remake almost certainly won't be able to be a part of that, because I'm sure there'll already be an agreement tied up between Sony and Square Enix that the Final Fantasy VII Remake project is at least a timed exclusive on PlayStation hardware. A Final Fantasy IX Remake, however, would have no such constraints unless they've agreed to them anew. And given the fact that they're saying that they're not going to do that, it leaves us with this possibility that we might get something FF9 related at this Nintendo Direct. Now, I would assume the Nintendo Direct is going to focus more on the Switch 2, but maybe we'll see that there's an announcement that FF9 Remake is going to be a launch title on the Switch 2, and that would be a huge move for Nintendo. You know, it would definitely help shift consoles, although I don't think the Switch 2 is particularly going to struggle to shift consoles because the Switch was such a phenomenon. I expect a lot of people will just jump on board anyway, but it's not going to hurt. Having the Final Fantasy IX Remake as a launch title on the new Switch would be massive. As for what form the Final Fantasy IX Remake is going to take, because we've not really had anything, because we've not had anything official at all, we don't know. The closest thing that we've got to any information, like I say, is that comment. I believe it was from Yoshida. I'll flash up on screen if I'm right or not, but I think it was, where he essentially says it would be too big to be one part. And I kind of get that. I kind of understand that. Just from the title alone, we should be able to tell that it's not going to be just a remaster of the original game. They're not going to take the original Final Fantasy IX and just shine it up a little bit and give it to us like the Star Ocean 2 remaster or like the recent Suikoden remasters or anything like that. It's not just going to be a tweaking of the original format. It is going to be a remake, and that falls more in line with what we've had with Final Fantasy VII. Now, do I think that they're going to be going all meta-narrative on it? No. I don't think we're going to have anything like that. I don't think it's going to be positioned as a sequel like the Final Fantasy VII Remake is. I think it is going to be a straight-up remake of that original game. It's just going to be expanded. It's just going to be scaled up. It's going to be improved in every way, I would expect. Obviously, this is all guesswork. This is all assumption because we still haven't had anything official. But if we go off all of the leaks, all of the circumstantial evidence, all of the insiders that come out and say there is a Final Fantasy IX Remake, it is being worked on. The fact that the company hasn't come out and rubbished it and said, no, that's not happening. All of these things come together. The fact that we've seen a ramping up of Final Fantasy IX merchandise and crossovers with other franchises that Square Enix possess, it's all pointing in the direction that we're potentially going to see something soon. And I'm going to say this now. If we do not hear about a Final Fantasy IX Remake this year, it's not happening. Like, it just isn't happening. Not to say that it won't happen in the future, but if we don't hear about it this year, there's nothing going on at the minute. That's my take. Because this is the perfect opportunity to do it. It's the 25th anniversary this year. So if you're going to do it, this is the time. Anyway, I've rambled on enough about this. This is ground that we've covered many, many times. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Do you think we are going to get this Final Fantasy IX Remake? Do you think it's going to be announced this Wednesday at the Nintendo Direct? What about the Tactics remaster? Does that even exist? Does that still exist? Has that been shelved? Because we did hear talk that Square Enix were looking at scaling back on some of the projects that they've done because, profitability wasn't necessarily there. So maybe the Tactics remaster has fallen by the wayside. I speculated that this may have happened to the Final Fantasy IX Remake, but, if one of those two is going to go, it's going to be Tactics. Final Fantasy IX is viewed by the developers as a bit of a masterpiece. Obviously, Sakaguchi has his feelings about it as well and stuff like that. But in the franchise generally, when people talk about their favourite Final Fantasy, it's either Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII, or Final Fantasy IX. So, yeah, if either one of those games is going to get the chop, it's going to be Tactics, I think. But anyway, I've rambled enough. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. Would you be excited for it? How would you feel if they were to change the combat system, for example? Would you be happy with it going the same route as Final Fantasy VII Remake has? Or would you want it to have a more classic turn-based RPG style like the original FF9 does? Just give me all your thoughts in the comments below. like the video, subscribe for future content, give it a share, but more importantly than all of that, have a great day.